The map of the world is a lie. You know that map that hung in your elementary school classroom, the same one you see now on Google Maps? Well, it's wrong. This is not what the world actually looks like. The size of a lot of these countries isn't real. Greenland, for example, looks massive, right? Huge! And it appears to be about the same size of Africa. Nope. Africa is actually 14 times bigger than Greenland. What? Alaska, huge, right? Nope. Mexico is actually bigger. And Europe looks large and sprawling, but Europe in reality could fit entirely inside Africa. So the true size of the world's countries is not this. It's actually this. How and why did this happen? Well, I'm going to dive in and try to make this make sense. In 1569, a guy with an epic beard named Mercator created a flat map of the round Earth, so that people sailing across the ocean could draw straight navigation lines to plan and measure their route. This is what Mercator's 1569 map of the world looked like. Mercator was from Europe, and Europe at the time was the center of world exploration and conquest. And a lot of that exploration and conquest was happening via the Atlantic Ocean. So obviously Mercator put Europe and the Atlantic Ocean in the middle of the map. Mercator died in 1594, but his map lived on, becoming the foundation for basically every world map ever since. But there's a problem here. You can't simply make a flat map out of a round sphere without there being some distortions. Probably the best visual example of these distortions is this animation from a Norwegian history channel on YouTube. To make the Earth into a flat map, it is sliced into 6 curved pieces. Those curved pieces are then flattened, combined, and then stretched. And here is the current world map. But did you see what happened? Let's go back and watch that again. The countries near the poles get stretched out. Greenland goes from tadpole to Godzilla. Europe, Russia, and North America, which are incidentally 3 major world powers, get blown up like balloons. Fast forward to the 20th century and the Cold War. The Mercator projection map was in basically every Western school classroom. The United States, big. Soviet Union, big. Europe, big. The superpowers literally look super. Now, there was no official memo that said make us look bigger for propaganda reasons, but no one complained either. Maps aren't neutral, they're political. When your map makes you look large, you don't rush in to change it. Then, in 1973, along comes Arno Peters, who essentially says, hey, maybe making Europe all enormous and big and Africa squeezed down and small isn't fair. He called the Mercator projection map colonialist propaganda, and then released his own map, the Peters projection. In Peters' map, Africa suddenly balloons to its true size. Europe shrinks down, and everyone freaked out. For example, Matthew Edney, a renowned map historian, said Peters, quote, concocted a veritable farrago of lies to sell his map, adding that Peters' map was absurd and complete bullshit. The German Cartographic Society published a 1985 booklet showing a red X through Peters' map. They accused the map of being fake, an extreme deformation of the truth. and complete nonsense. Peters wasn't actually a cartographer. He was a historian and filmmaker, so the map experts saw him as an outsider hijacking their field for ideological reasons. And the map Peters promoted wasn't even new. It was almost identical to one proposed by Scottish cartographer James Gall in the 1850s. So Peters' map was eventually renamed the Gall-Peters projection. Liberal entities like the United Nations embraced the Peters map, while more conservative entities clutched onto the traditional Mercator map. To many, while more accurate in size, the Peters map just felt wrong. Does it feel wrong to you? Look at it. One of the reasons Peters' map might feel wrong is because we have literally been looking at the wrong map for over 400 years now. The debate over the Peters map was reignited in pop culture decades later in 2000 via the hit TV show The West Wing, where a nonprofit organization pitches the White House staff about replacing the traditional Mercator map with the Peters map.
For every public school in America to teach geography using the Peters projection map instead of the traditional Mercator.
Give me $200 and it's done.
Really?
No.
The main characters, possibly reflecting most of society, are stunned to learn for the first time the true sizes of various countries.
What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time.
Ultimately, in Western society, the Mercator map won. Though there have been some compromises. National Geographic, for example, ditched the Mercator for the Robinson map, which curves the world a bit and eliminates straight lines to accommodate Peters' complaints of size disparity. But Google Maps, arguably the most popular map on the planet, still uses a modified version of the Mercator projection. But as you've now learned, this is not what the world looks like.
Yep, we're still using a 16th century map projection that intentionally minimizes Africa's true size.
In 2025, the African Union is officially calling on the world to ditch the Mercator map and adopt one that shows the true size of continents. A campaign called Correct the Map has proposed the Equal Earth projection, a new map which claims to portray the world accurately and keeps the continents proportional.
They diminished the size of Africa to make everything fit.
Farah Ndiaye, co-founder of Speak Up Africa, said the Mercator map unfairly portrays her continent and has harmed Africa's identity and pride.
The current size of the map of Africa is wrong. It's the world's longest misinformation and disinformation campaign, and it just simply has to stop.
The Correct the Map campaign wants institutions like the World Bank and the United Nations to adopt the new Equal Earth map. And a World Bank spokesperson says they've already started using the Equal Earth map and are phasing out the Mercator map. If you want to dive into the Mercator map yourself and see the actual size of different countries, there's a great online tool called thetruesize.com. Type in any country and then drag it around the map. Canada, for example, looks huge on the Mercator map, but drag it down to South America and you suddenly see its actual size. The United States, it would fit entirely inside Africa, which in reality is massive. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, for example, is 1/3 the size of the entire United States. The one that is most mind-blowing to me is Russia, which dominates the Mercator map. Look at it. It looks colossal, but drag it down to the equator and it shrinks way, way down. The 1569 Mercator map might have helped sailors circumvent the globe, but it totally shipwrecked our minds. It made powerful nations look bigger and everyone else smaller, not just on paper, but in perception. And that's the thing about maps. They don't just show the world, they show what the world thinks of itself.